Hello, my name is Ivy Daniels. I'm 25 years old, and I've been working as a financial professional for 3 years. For most of that time, I lived with my parents because I grew up believing what they always told me: family sticks together, family shares everything, family supports one another. It took me a long time to understand that in my family, sharing everything meant I shared everything, and they took whatever they could. And that no matter how hard I tried, I would never measure up to my younger brother, Stephen, in my parents' eyes. Stephen was always the golden child, the one who needed protecting, praising, rescuing. I was the responsible one, the one who didn't need help, the one who quietly paid. A year ago, on the morning of Stephen's graduation, I was sitting at the kitchen table, drinking my coffee before work, scrolling through emails on my phone. I had a meeting at 9, numbers swirling in my head, and I remember thinking it would just be an ordinary day. "Ivy, come to the living room for a minute," my mom called. Her voice had that tight, brisk tone that never meant anything good. My dad was already sitting on the couch, remote in his hand, TV muted. Stephen was still asleep upstairs. Finals had tired him out. My mom always said that, like he was the only person in the world who had ever taken exams. I sat down in the armchair, still holding my mug. My mom didn't bother with small talk. "Stephen's graduation party is tonight," she said. "We booked a table at the Grand Oak. Be there by 6. Dress appropriately, and don't forget to bring a gift for your brother." There was no, "Can you make it?" No, "We'd really like you there." Just a command. It was as if my presence was just another box to check, like ordering the cake or confirming the reservation. I stared at them for a second, the steam from my coffee curling up in front of my face. There was something bitter on my tongue that wasn't from the drink. "When I graduated," I asked quietly, "did I get a party?" My mom's expression didn't change. "You know, things were different then. And you're the older sister, Ivy. You're supposed to be more understanding." My dad sighed, the long, suffering kind of sigh he reserved for me. "Your brother only graduates once. Don't make this about you." I let out a dry laugh. I couldn't help it. Make this about me? When had anything ever been about me? I remembered my own graduation so clearly. No party, no congratulations from extended family, just my parents mumbling, "We're proud of you," and then, "So, where are you taking us to celebrate?" I'd spent $500 on that dinner, 500 that meant tight grocery budgets and skipped coffees for months. But I'd told myself that's what family does. Now, looking at them, I realized that's what I did, not what they did. As if sensing my silence, my mom added sharply, "You're his older sister. You should at least bring something. If you don't have a gift, then don't bother coming and embarrassing the family." There it was, not a request, an ultimatum. Something in me went very still. "All right," I said, standing up, placing my half-finished coffee on the table. "I'll bring a gift." I grabbed my bag and car keys and went to work as usual. But in the back of my mind, a plan was already forming. If a gift was so important to them, I was going to make sure it was truly unforgettable. The entire day at the office, spreadsheets and client emails blurred into background noise, while my thoughts stayed locked on that dinner. On Stephen, on my parents, on that word, embarrassing. At lunchtime, I pulled out my phone, opened an electronics store app, and ordered a brand new MacBook, almost $2,000. Expensive, even for me. I arranged for it to be delivered to the Grand Oak at exactly 7 p.m. I imagined the scene, the delivery guy walking in, calling Stephen's name, everyone turning to look, my brother opening the box in front of all his friends. I imagined, stupidly, that maybe, my parents would finally see my effort. Maybe they would even say thank you. By 6 o'clock, I left the office and drove downtown. The Grand Oaks valet took my keys, and I walked through the glass doors into a sea of warm light and noise. The place was packed. Long tables lined the room, covered with white cloths, glittering with wine glasses and silverware. Balloons in Stephen's college colors floated near the ceiling. Laughter echoed from the far side. They'd really gone all out. I spotted my parents at one of the tables, surrounded by people, distant relatives, my dad's colleagues, neighbors I hadn't seen in years. Everyone was talking, raising glasses, taking pictures. There was a cake with Stephen's name on it. There had never been a cake with my name. My mom noticed me and walked over. Her arms were crossed, expression neutral. "You're late," she said. "There are no seats left." I looked around. Almost every chair was taken, but there was one empty seat near Stephen. "What about that one?" I asked, pointing. My mom followed my gaze, then shook her head. "That seat is taken. One of Stephen's friends is coming. You should have been on time, Ivy." A laugh slipped out of me again. This one was sharper. So Stephen's friend, who isn't even here yet, has a seat, I said slowly. But I don't. My dad joined us, adjusting his tie like he was settling in for a performance. You were told to be here at 6, he said. You know how important tonight is for your brother. Don't start causing drama. My mom flicked her eyes over my outfit, unimpressed. Where's your gift? She asked, voice turning icy. Honestly, I think you should just leave. You're late, and you didn't even bring a present. The murmurs started then, like a low buzz. She came without a gift? She's the older sister, right? At least bring something, my God. I heard every word, from relatives who never called me, from people who didn't even show up at my graduation. My cheeks burned, but not with shame. Fine, I thought. Let's give them a show. Right then, my phone buzzed in my hand. I glanced at the screen. Unknown number, Apple Store delivery. I swiped to answer, my voice steady. Hello? A man's voice came through, a little breathless. Hi, I'm outside the Grand Oak with a delivery. A MacBook for a Ms. Ivy Daniels. Should I bring it in now? I could feel every eye around us turn toward me. Yes, I said, a little louder than necessary. Please bring it in. The room quieted as the delivery guy walked in, carrying a sleek box. He came straight to me. My brother, seated near the head of the table, glanced up, his eyes widening. I took a few steps forward, positioning myself so everyone could see. Stephen, I called. The conversations faded into silence. This is your graduation gift, I said. A new MacBook. A ripple of surprise went through the crowd. Seriously? Stephen blurted, standing halfway up from his seat, shock and excitement mixing on his face. Somebody whistled. Someone else said, Wow, that's expensive. I glanced at my parents. They were beaming. My mother leaned toward a relative and whispered proudly, See? Ivy would never show up empty-handed. My father crossed his arms, nodding like a king surveying his kingdom. That's our girl. She knows her responsibilities. I took in their satisfied expressions, the way they looked relieved, like I'd finally done what I was supposed to do. I smiled. Then I looked at the delivery guy. I'm sorry, I said, my tone light, almost casual. I'd like to cancel this order. The room froze. Stephen's smile dropped off his face. What? He snapped. Ivy, what are you doing? The delivery guy blinked. Ma'am? I want to cancel, I repeated calmly. Please call the store and confirm it. My father's face was turning red. Ivy, stop this nonsense. This isn't funny. The delivery guy, still a professional, stepped aside to make the call while the entire table stared at me. Whispers rose again, this time harsher. Is she crazy? Is this some kind of joke? Poor Stephen. A moment later, the delivery guy came back. They've confirmed the cancellation, he said. There will be a 5% fee, but the rest will be refunded to your account within 3 to 5 business days. I nodded. That's fine, thank you. As he turned to leave, Stephen exploded. Are you insane? He shouted, his chair screeching back. Why would you do that? Are you trying to humiliate me in front of everyone? My dad slammed his hand on the table. What the hell is wrong with you, Ivy? Are you trying to embarrass this family? My mother shook her head, eyes blazing. We were right. You can't just be decent for once, can you? Their voices washed over me. Anger, accusations, disappointment. I looked at each of them in turn. Then I said quietly for everyone to hear, I didn't have a seat at this table, so tell me, why should I spend $2,000 on someone or on a family that doesn't even think I deserve a chair? No one had an answer. I turned, walked past the stunned guests, and left the restaurant. Nobody followed me. I didn't go home right away. Instead, I drove to a small coffee shop on a side street, not far from my office, but far from my parents' world. It was half empty, warm light spilling onto dark wood tables, soft acoustic music playing over the speakers. I ordered an Americano and sat in the corner, my body finally relaxing into the chair as the adrenaline ebbed. For a while, I just stared at the swirling surface of my coffee. Then the memories came, uninvited, like an old movie replaying in my head. I'd always known, even as a kid, that I was never the favorite. When I won first place in the school math competition, my parents patted my shoulder and said, Good job, sweetie, before turning back to their phones. When Stephen won a bronze medal at a district soccer tournament, they threw him a party, invited relatives, and bought him new cleats. In high school, when I scored highest in my class on finals, they barely mentioned it. When Stephen nearly failed a subject but scraped by on a retake, they took him out for a huge dinner. In college, I survived off scholarships and 3 part-time jobs. I never asked them for money because there was never any to spare, at least that's what they told me. When Stephen got into college, they bought him a used car, paid his tuition, and deposited a monthly allowance into his account. And at my graduation, just that cheap bouquet and the bill for dinner. I rubbed my eyes, the bitterness rising again. My phone buzzed on the table, the screen lighting up with a name. Liam. Liam. Hey, how's the party? You okay? I stared at the message for a moment, then typed back. Me. It's a lot. I'll tell you later. A dot appeared like he was typing, then stopped. He replied. Liam. Just remember you don't owe anyone your sanity, okay? Call me when you're home. I smiled faintly despite myself. Liam wasn't perfect. We argued, we misunderstood each other sometimes, but he never treated me like a wallet with legs. The contrast stung. I set my phone down and took a deep breath. Sitting there, in that quiet corner, the truth settled into my chest, like a weight and a release at the same time. No matter how much I gave, it would never be enough for my parents. To them, I would always be the dependable older daughter, the one they could lean on, the one who would understand, the one who didn't need celebrating, or seats, or gifts. Just the one who paid. If I stayed in that house, in that role, I knew exactly how my future would look. Every raise, every promotion, every extra dollar would disappear into someone else's emergencies, someone else's dreams. Stephen's dreams, my parents' comfort. Never mind. I wrapped my hands around the warm coffee cup and let the decision crystallize. I needed a life of my own, a place where I didn't have to prove my worth to people who had already decided I didn't have any. I finished my drink, picked up my phone, and headed to my car. By the time I drove home, it was past 10. The street was quiet, our house dark, except for the warm glow from the living room window. As I stepped inside, I saw them immediately. My parents sitting side by side on the couch. The TV was off. The room was too quiet. They were waiting, not to comfort me, not to apologize. I could feel it in the air, the weight of another demand, another accusation, another performance of concern. I closed the door softly behind me, my hand still on the knob, my heart strangely calm. I had no idea then that the conversation that night would change everything. When I stepped into the living room, the atmosphere felt rehearsed. My mom sat with her hands folded in her lap, her lips pressed into what almost looked like a gentle smile. My dad's posture was relaxed, remote on the coffee table, as if they'd just paused a show to talk to me. No yelling, no slammed doors, no immediate accusations. If you've grown up with volatile parents, you know this kind of calm is often more dangerous than the shouting. Ivy, my mom said softly, like she hadn't practically disowned me in front of 50 people a few hours ago. Come sit down. We need to talk. I stood there for a moment, my bag still on my shoulder. Part of me wanted to walk straight past them, lock my bedroom door, and pretend I didn't hear. But another part, the part that still hoped they might one day choose me, hesitated. I set my bag down and sat on the armchair across from them. My dad cleared his throat. We were upset earlier, he began, choosing his words carefully. But it's been a long day for everyone. Let's not drag this out. I didn't respond. I watched them. My mom's eyes met mine, softer than I'd seen in a long time. We should have saved a seat for you, she said quietly. That was wrong of us. We're sorry. The words hit something old and tender in me, an apology. For years, I'd wanted to hear those words about so many things, about the ignored achievements, the double standards, the way I felt like furniture in my own home. Family makes mistakes, my dad added, nodding. But we're still family. We don't want you to feel left out. For a second, my resolve trembled. Maybe I'd been too harsh at the restaurant. Maybe I shouldn't have canceled the gift in front of everyone. Maybe if I just tried harder, tried to be more understanding like they always told me. I felt my throat tighten. Okay, I said slowly. Thank you for saying that. My mom's shoulders relaxed, and she gave a small sigh of relief, like she'd been waiting for that line. Then my dad continued, and everything snapped back into sharp focus. Stephen was very upset that you canceled the MacBook, he said. He was really looking forward to it, and in the end, he got nothing. There it was, the real conversation. So, my dad went on, his tone turning practical, almost businesslike. We thought of another way you can make it up to him. I leaned back slightly. Make it up to him? Yes, my mom said, as if it were obvious. The dinner tonight costs $4,600. If you cover half, we'll consider the matter settled. Think of it as your graduation gift to your brother. Silence. I stared at them, trying to decide if this was some elaborate joke. You want me, I said carefully, to pay $2,300 for a party I had no seat at. My dad frowned. Don't be dramatic, Ivy. You were invited. I was ordered, I cut in, and then told to leave because I didn't bring a gift. My mom's softness vanished so fast it almost made me dizzy. You humiliated Stephen in front of everyone, she snapped. That little stunt with the laptop? People were looking at us like we raised a monster. We're trying to fix what you did. I let out a small, humorless laugh. You're trying to fix it with my money. My father's jaw tightened. You make the highest income in this family, he said. You can afford it. You've always been independent. You don't need us to pay for you. But your brother, he's just starting out. As his older sister, you should help him. There it was again. Older sister, independent. You don't need us. I felt something inside me harden, like cooling metal. Let me get this straight, I said. When I graduated, you didn't throw me a party. You barely said congratulations. The only thing you asked was where I was taking you to eat. I spent $500 that night, and you treated it like a normal dinner. My mom's face tightened. Why are you bringing that up now? That was years ago. Because it matters, I said quietly. It mattered then. It matters now. I leaned forward, my voice low and steady. When I won the math competition, you said good job and moved on. When Stephen got a bronze medal, you threw him a party. In high school, when I topped my class, nothing. When he barely passed, you took him out to celebrate how hard he worked. I paid my way through college, never asking you for a cent. But when Stephen went to college, you bought him a car, paid his tuition, and gave him an allowance. Their expressions shifted, like they weren't expecting me to have kept such detailed receipts of my own life. We knew you didn't need us, my dad said after a moment, sounding annoyed, as if my competence had personally offended him. You were always the capable one. Stephen needed more support. That's not support, I said. That's favoritism. My mom's voice sharpened. You always do this. You twist everything to make yourself the victim. You are not a child anymore, Ivy. You make good money. You live under our roof. You can contribute. I do contribute, I shot back. I've been giving you $1,000 every month for rent and living expenses because you demanded $2,000 and we compromised. Remember that? Before I even got my first paycheck, you sat me down and named a price to keep living in my own room. My father bristled. That's called responsibility. You think the bills pay themselves? You've been eating, using electricity, water. I laughed, the sound sharp and cold. You tried to charge me $2,000. I could rent a nicer place on my own for that. You only dropped it because you realized I might actually leave. They both fell silent at that. Family helps each other, my mom said finally, like she was clinging to the last line of a rehearsed script. That's how it should be. Yes, I agreed softly, but there's a difference between helping and being used. Her eyes flashed. Used? You think we used you because we asked you to support your own brother? You didn't ask, I corrected her. You demanded. You guilted. You called me selfish. You made it very clear that my value in this family is measured in dollars. My dad shook his head, disgusted. No wonder you feel distant from us. You keep pulling away, complaining about every little thing instead of being generous. You can't even do this one thing for your brother. I met his gaze and didn't look away. Were you ever generous with me? I asked. That shut them both up, I continued, my voice like a blade, sinking into a soft surface. When I graduated with honors, what did you do? I asked quietly. They said nothing. You brought a cheap bouquet and told me to plan my own celebration. Then you made me pay for it, I said. Tonight, Stephen graduates like any ordinary student, and you throw him a luxury party with over 50 guests. You didn't save me a seat, but his late-arriving friends got one. You call me selfish, but I was the only one who even considered giving him something expensive, something meaningful. My mother opened her mouth, closed it, and then hissed, You did that for attention. You always want to prove how much better you are than your brother. No, I said plainly. I did it because I wanted to see if, just once, you'd look at something I gave and think, she's a good daughter, we're proud of her. The admission hung in the air between us, raw and vulnerable. I saw a flicker, just for a second, of something like guilt in my father's eyes before it hardened again. You're twisting things, he muttered. You always do. I took a slow breath. The anger was there, but it was sitting under something else now, clarity. If you're only apologizing to ask for money, I said, standing up, then there's nothing left for us to talk about. My mom's head snapped up. So you're refusing to help? You're really that selfish? Yes, I replied. If that's what you need to call it to feel better, then yes, I'm refusing. My father's patience finally snapped. You make the most in this family, and you can't contribute a little? He shouted. Do you know how hard we work to care for you and Stephen? You didn't take care of me, I said quietly. I've been taking care of myself for a long time. His mouth opened, then closed, like he wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small in front of them. I felt done. I'm going to my room, I said. I have work tomorrow. We're not finished, my mom snapped. I am, I answered. I picked up my bag and walked down the hallway to my bedroom, shutting the door behind me. On the other side, I could hear their muffled voices, angry, incredulous, blaming. I leaned my head back against the wood and closed my eyes. My phone buzzed on my nightstand. It was Liam again. Liam, you home yet? Me. Yeah, long story. I'll call you tomorrow, okay? Liam, whenever you're ready, I'm here. I stared at his message for a long moment. My parents were in the living room, stewing in resentment because I hadn't given them enough. My boyfriend was on the other side of a screen, asking for nothing but the chance to listen when I was ready. The contrast felt louder than any shouting. I lay down on my bed, staring at the ceiling in the dark. I thought that after everything, after the restaurant and this conversation, maybe things would finally settle down, that they'd stop demanding more. But I was wrong. 2 days later, they made a new request, one that would push me out of that house for good. 2 days later, I came home from work feeling drained, not angry, just tired, emotionally wrung out. I'd spent the entire day running numbers for a client, all while the conversation from the other night kept replaying in my head, every line, every accusation. When I stepped into the house, the lights were already on in the living room. My parents were on the couch, again, waiting. I almost laughed. At this point, it felt like a ritual. My mom looked up, her lips pressed together. Ivy, sit down. We need to talk. I stood there in the doorway, my bag still on my shoulder. I'm not paying the $2,300, I said flatly, before they could get started. She flicked her hand dismissively. It's not about that. I frowned. Then what? My dad leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and in a tone so casual it almost didn't register as insanity, he said, We want you to give your car to Stephen. I blinked. Hey, my car? He needs it, my mom said, nodding, as if this were the most logical request in the world. He's applying for jobs, commuting, preparing for interviews. His old car is too unreliable. Then buy him a new one, I said. My dad gave an incredulous scoff. Are you hearing yourself? You got your job before him. You've had time to save. You can help your brother out a little. I just stared. This car, I said slowly, is the one I saved for 6 months to buy. Every penny, no help from anyone. You make it sound like you climbed Mount Everest, my mom snapped. People help their siblings. That's how families work. I set my bag down. Then let me put it differently. No. Their expressions tightened. I kept going, my voice calm, almost bored. If Stephen needs a car so badly, he can drive his old one a bit longer, or he can save up like I did. My father's tone hardened. You're being difficult for no reason. Stephen is just starting his life. He needs support. You already have a good job. You can buy another car later. Great, I said. Then you can buy this one from me. The room went quiet. My mom blinked. What? If you want the car, I repeated, you can buy it. That's fair. My father's face went red in an instant. You're asking us to pay to help your brother? He roared, slamming his hand on the coffee table. What kind of daughter are you? The echo of his voice vibrated through the room. I didn't flinch. I'm the daughter who bought that car with her own money, I said, and I'm the daughter who's done her part, more than enough. My dad shot up from the couch. Enough of this. Get out. I wasn't shocked, not even a little. I'd felt this moment coming for years. I nodded once. All right. My mom's eyes widened. Wait, where are you going? You told me to get out, I said, so I'm leaving. I walked to my room, calmly picked up my suitcases from the closet, and began packing. Clothes, toiletries, important documents, essentials only. I left behind anything that symbolized the years I'd spent shrinking myself to fit their expectations. I left behind the memories they weaponized against me. I didn't take the cheap bouquet from my graduation. I didn't take the childhood trophies no one ever congratulated me for. Just what I needed to start a life that wasn't measured in what I could give them. 15 minutes later, I dragged my suitcases down the stairs. My mom stood near the bottom, pale, trembling. You're being dramatic, she whispered, her voice cracking. You're really walking out over a car? No, I said quietly. I'm walking out because you've shown me exactly what I am to you. My father crossed his arms. Let's see how long you last without family. That line, that exact tone, I will never forget it. Not because it hurt, but because it showed me how little they understood me at all. I didn't argue, didn't cry, didn't ask them to reconsider. I walked out the front door, luggage wheels bumping over the tiles. I didn't look back. The hotel. I checked into a cheap hotel that night. $50 a night. Tiny room, faded curtains, a bathroom fan that rattled like it was possessed. But it was quiet. And for the first time in my life, I felt something like peace. No yelling, no guilt trips, no ambush family meetings in the living room. Just me. I slept like a stone. Liam calls. The next morning, my phone buzzed as I was brushing my teeth. Liam, I answered on speaker. You didn't call me last night, he said, trying not to sound worried.
I was tired, I said, rinsing my mouth.
Are you home now? A small silence hung between us before I said, No, I moved out.
What? His voice cracked. Ivy, what? What happened? Are you okay? Where are you?
I'm fine, I said, and unexpectedly, I realized I meant it. I'm really fine.
He exhaled shakily. Come stay with me, seriously. I don't want you in some cheap hotel alone.
I appreciate it, I said softly, but I need my own space, just for now. He didn't push. That's one of the reasons I stayed with him through everything. He never twisted my decisions into obligations.
Okay, he finally said. Just text me when you're settled, okay? I mean it.
I will.
The apartment. After 10 days of searching on my lunch breaks, scrolling through rental listings between client calls and visiting tiny, questionable units, I found it. A small 50 square meter apartment. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom. A kitchen that was barely bigger than a closet.
But it was bright, clean, affordable.
And most importantly, it was mine. $500 a month. I signed the contract the same day. When I moved in, I sat on the bare floor of the living room, surrounded by unopened boxes, eating fast food fries out of a paper bag. And I cried. Not from sadness,
From relief.
Every morning became easier. Every night felt lighter. My money stayed mine. My time stayed mine.
For 6 months, I built a life that finally fit me.
6 months of quiet. 6 months of peace. 6 months of no demands.
6 months without hearing my parents' voices.
And then, one day my phone rang. My mother's name lit up on the screen. For the first time ever, I didn't feel panic. I felt curiosity. I answered. Her voice was soft, too soft.
Ivy, it's been so long. I miss you. Can we meet?
I had no idea then what she was about to ask. No idea that this meeting would become the ultimate test of how much they thought they were entitled to.
No idea this would be the moment everything snapped for good.
My mom chose a cafe downtown for our reunion, a place we had never been before, neutral territory. That was my first red flag.
When I arrived, 10 minutes early, I spotted her immediately.
Then I saw the others, my dad and Stephen, all sitting together at a corner table. An ambush. Of course. I didn't turn around and leave, though a part of me wanted to. Instead, I walked over, sat down, and folded my hands on the table.
No hugs. No, we missed you. No warmth. My mom put on a smile that didn't reach her eyes.
You look, well, she said, as if she was surprised I hadn't withered without them.
I'm fine, I replied. Let's skip the small talk. What do you want?
My dad's smile dropped instantly.
My mom inhaled sharply, offended.
Ivy, please, we haven't seen each other in months. Mom, I said gently, I'm not stupid. You didn't call to reconnect, so just say it.
She hesitated, then finally sighed.
All right, she murmured, folding her napkin. We need your help.
There it was. My father leaned forward, clasping his hands together as though he were conducting a business meeting.
Stephen has a wonderful opportunity, he began, voice low and serious. He wants to open a cafe. I almost laughed. Not because Stephen was incapable, but because I knew exactly where this was going. My dad continued. He has a strong business idea. He's passionate. He's researched equipment, location, target customers.
Stephen nodded enthusiastically, tapping on his phone like he had a whole pitch deck ready.
And banks charge ridiculous interest, my mom said, shaking her head in disgust. It would be a burden on him. Totally unfair. There was a beat of silence. So, my dad said finally, we need you to lend us $50,000. I stared at him.
My mom rushed to fill the silence. Just for a year. 1 year, that's all. We'll pay back every cent.
My dad nodded. Of course, family helps each other, especially when one member is in a stronger financial position.
And you're earning good money, my mom added, as if that somehow obligated me.
I looked at Stephen. He tried to look mature, responsible, but I saw the same eagerness I'd seen his whole life, the same expectation that the world would always adjust itself for him.
I'll pay it back as soon as I make a profit, he said. This is my dream, Ivy. You can help me achieve it.
I leaned back in my seat.
Inside, I felt nothing.
Not guilt, not anger, just a quiet clarity. They expected me to drop $50,000, more than I had ever spent on myself, because Stephen had a dream that required my hard work.
I took a sip of water. Then I smiled.
Okay, I said calmly. You'll have the money.
3 faces lit up instantly. My mom's eyes sparkled with relief.
My dad relaxed into his chair like he'd just finished a marathon. Stephen exhaled, almost shaking with excitement. That's our girl, my dad said warmly, tone flipping like a switch. I knew you would come through. But, I added casually, we'll need to put everything in writing. My dad frowned. What?
I'll lend you the $50,000, I repeated, interest-free, but there will be a formal loan agreement. You're seriously making us sign a contract? My mom demanded. We're family. That's why I'm not charging interest, I said sweetly, but I want to protect myself, just like you would. My dad's jaw clenched. What kind of collateral are you asking for? I held his gaze, unwavering. The house. Silence. A suffocating silence. My mom froze, her mouth hanging open. My father stared at me like I'd spoken another language. Stephen blinked in disbelief. I didn't break eye contact. If you don't pay me back in a year, I said slowly, the house becomes mine. My father sputtered. Are you out of your mind? Not at all, I replied. You believe in Stephen's success, right? You're confident his cafe will make plenty of profit? Then this shouldn't be a problem. The cafe's background music played softly. A spoon clinked against a cup somewhere across the room. But our table was dead silent. My mom finally found her voice. You're threatening us, she whispered. Your own family. I'm doing what a bank would do, I said. Only kinder. Stephen shook his head, offended. I can't believe this. You're supposed to support me, not punish us. I leaned forward, my voice calm and unwavering. For 25 years, you've taught me something. In this family, nothing is ever just given. Everything has a price, and I've paid enough. My father's eyes burned into mine. I have no daughter like you, he spat. I felt nothing. Not grief, not fear, not even anger. Only freedom. I stood, picked up my purse, and pushed in my chair. That's your choice, I said quietly. Good luck. I walked out of the cafe while the three of them sat there, stunned, as if the script they'd relied on all their lives had suddenly been rewritten. I didn't look back. That night, Liam. I sat on my couch that night, legs curled under me, a blanket over my shoulders. The room was dim, the only light coming from the lamp in the corner. My phone buzzed. Liam, I answered. He didn't even say hello. Ivy, what happened? You okay? I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Yeah, I actually am. Do you want to tell me? He asked gently. So I did. The cafe, the request, the $50,000, the house collateral, the disowning. When I finished, there was a long silence on the other end. Finally, Liam spoke. I'm proud of you. My breath caught, not out of shock, but relief. You didn't let them use you anymore, he continued. You chose yourself. I know that wasn't easy. It wasn't, but it felt right. You didn't push me to reconcile, I murmured. Why would I? He asked. I'm not here to fix your family. I'm here to stand beside you while you build a better one. My chest tightened. Softly, I whispered, thank you. Always, he replied. We talked a little longer, not about my parents, but about mundane things. What he had for dinner. A funny coworker story. Plans for the weekend. Normal things. Gentle things. I didn't realize until later how much I needed that. When the call ended, I curled up on the couch, pulled the blanket tighter, and closed my eyes. For the first time in months, I didn't dream about my parents. I dreamed about a quiet house with a garden, warm lights, and laughter. A future I could build on my terms. But life has a way of circling back. And 1 week later, fate, or maybe karma, delivered the final chapter of this story. It happened on an ordinary afternoon. I had just finished a long day at work, the kind of day where my brain felt like overcooked noodles, and all I wanted was a hot shower and the leftover pasta waiting in my fridge. As I stepped out of the elevator in my apartment building, someone called my name. Ivy? I turned. It was Emily, my cousin. We'd never been particularly close, but she'd always been neutral in family conflicts, never choosing sides or stirring drama. She looked hesitant, like she'd been debating whether to speak to me at all. Hey, I said, surprised. What are you doing here? She glanced around awkwardly. Can we talk, just for a minute? Something in her expression made my stomach tighten, but I nodded and gestured toward a bench by the window in the hallway. She sat, I sat, and then she took a deep breath. I ran into your mom yesterday, she said softly. She told me some things I thought you should know. I didn't say anything. I just waited. Emily continued, voice careful, gentle, like she was handling something fragile. Stephen's cafe, it failed. I blinked. She went on, a little faster now, like she just wanted to get it all out. It failed after 3 months. There weren't enough customers, and he overspent on renovations and equipment. They had to shut it down. I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not triumph, not sadness. Just the quiet confirmation of something I'd known all along. Stephen wasn't ready. Not for a business, not for the pressure of independence, not for the real world outside the bubble my parents built around him. Emily kept talking. And the debts? She hesitated, then sighed. Your parents took out loans to help him. A lot of loans. They tried to cover everything when the cafe started sinking. I stared at the floor. They're selling the house, Ivy, she finished. To pay off everything. They don't have a choice. There it was. The consequence. The cost of years of favoritism, of shielding Stephen from every struggle while piling every responsibility on me. The price of choosing one child as the fragile treasure and the other as the tireless mule. I didn't feel the vindication people expect in stories like this. I didn't feel joy, or revenge, or victory. Just a quiet, aching acceptance. Emily watched me carefully. They're having a hard time. Your mom, she's been crying a lot. Your dad looks exhausted. Stephen hasn't left the house in weeks. I swallowed. I see, I said. She hesitated before asking the question I knew was coming. Are you going to help them? I let the silence stretch. It wasn't a theatrical pause. It wasn't for dramatic effect. It was because I needed a moment of honesty, raw honesty, with myself. Would I help them? Could I help them? After everything? After years of being treated like the backup generator for the family, switched on only when they needed something, forgotten the rest of the time. Finally, I shook my head. No, I said quietly, I won't. Emily didn't look shocked, just sad. Is that final? She asked. Yes, I whispered. She nodded, slowly, like she respected the answer, even if she didn't fully understand it. I'll tell them you're okay, she said softly. They asked. I took a breath, then said the words that had been resting on my tongue since the cafe meeting. Tell them I'm doing just fine, I said. Tell them I'm not coming back. Emily stood, gave my shoulder a small squeeze, and walked away. I watched her leave, then walked into my apartment, into the little haven I had built with my own money, my own choices, my own peace. Later that night, I sat on the balcony with a mug of tea, my knees pulled up to my chest. The city lights twinkled below, each tiny window a little universe of its own. For years, I'd lived like my universe revolved around my parents, around their needs, their expectations, their version of family. It was only now, sitting alone, quiet, free, that I realized how small that universe had been. Liam called around 9. What are you doing? He asked, his voice warm through the speaker. Thinking, I said. About your parents? About everything. He didn't push. He just waited until I was ready. I found out their cafe failed, I told him. They're selling the house. He exhaled softly. I'm sorry. I know this is complicated. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Do you think I'm heartless? I asked, for not helping them now? No, he said instantly. You're choosing yourself for the first time in your life. That isn't cruelty. That's survival. Tears pricked the corners of my eyes. Thank you, I whispered. You don't owe them your future, Ivy, he continued gently. You've already given them enough of your past. Those words hit me so deeply I had to close my eyes. You can build something better, he said, with people who actually love you, with someone who wants to stand beside you, not climb on your back. My chest tightened. Someone like you? I asked quietly. He didn't hesitate. I hope so, he said. I swallowed a small laugh, wiping my eyes. Yeah, I hope so too. When the call ended, I stayed on the balcony long after my tea went cold. I thought about the people online who'd hear my story and say I was cruel, ungrateful, a bad daughter. I thought about the ones who'd say I did the right thing, that boundaries are necessary, even when they hurt. And then I realized something important. I wasn't doing this to prove anything to them, or to my parents, or even to Stephen. I was doing it for me, because there's a difference between helping family and being used by them. A difference between sacrifice and being sacrificed. A difference between love and obligation disguised as love. My parents never understood that difference, but I do, and I finally chose the side that let me breathe. People still argue about whether I did the right thing. Some say I abandoned my family in their hardest moment. Some say my parents made their bed. Some say Stephen doesn't deserve to struggle. Some say I deserve better all along. So I'm asking you, if a family treats you like an ATM, ignores your achievements, celebrates your sibling while dismissing you, punishes you for independence, and only reaches out when they want something, are you still obligated to sacrifice everything for them? Let me know in the comments. Your stories matter too, maybe more than you think. And if my story resonates with you, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for listening.